Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo and you're watching another live Q&A with you and me. That's right, I'm streaming this live. Yet another bonus that you can get by being one of the super nomies, and this is a good bonus, really. Apart from various bits of intelligence that I only share with my patrons. So you're only just scratching the surface with Chris Pirillo. Your bonuses start at just $2 a month, supporting us by way of the Patreon campaign, a redirect through chrispirillo.com. Today's question is, thoughts on Surface 3? I'm very glad you asked, and I'm very glad to respond. Not just very glad, I'm very glad to respond. It seems that Surface 3, not having touched one, only reading reviews of people who have, knowing where Microsoft is in the industry today, knowing where it needs to be, knowing where your interest might lie, it's just a lot that's bouncing around inside my skull. Surface 3, not to be confused with Surface Pro 3, seems to be what the Surface with Windows RT should have been in the first place. Now, let's be clear. Surface 3 is not Windows RT. It's running on the Intel platform. Granted, an Atom processor, which is slower than what you may have been accustomed to with the Core series of products from Intel. So there's a clear differentiator. Hang on, I'm still waking up. Wow. Oh, sorry. Drank from the wrong side of the mug. All right, so it's a clear differentiator. Speed, big deal. It's even smaller, slightly smaller, not like dramatically smaller compared to the Surface Pro 3. They're two different products, but basically in the same family. The thing is, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a killer apart from a killer of earlier Surface products. If you wanted a Surface-like experience, a Surface-esque experience, a Microsoft PC experience, but did not want to spend a ton of money, this is probably your best bet, the Surface 3. Available soon. This is where I'm kind of confused. Even though we all know, or we should all know, that Microsoft is offering Windows 10 as a free update. They'll be updating this Surface 3 with Windows 10. That's kind of like a bonus, but I'm like, that's not really a bonus because everybody's getting Windows 10 for free, effectively, for all intents and purposes. But what I couldn't figure out is why Microsoft is shipping this before Windows 10 is ready. To me, that just doesn't make sense. Why are they getting it out with Windows 8.1 when they could wait for a Windows 10 experience and everything's ready to go? So, having not touched one, having only used Windows 10 in beta form, knowing that consumers are looking for a solid experience, I think the Surface 3 has a chance to shine. Don't expect this to be a top performer. That's not the Surface 3's goals at all. In fact, I don't know if it's fair to compare it to an iPad either, apart from them both being portable machines. Touchscreen capable. You've got the ability to use a pen with the Surface 3, just like you could with the Surface Pro 3. I'm not really a stylus or a pen kind of user, though. You might very well be. You've got 4G LTE connectivity with the Surface 3. It's just not going to be a super speed demon. I think the biggest selling point for the Surface 3, not Surface Pro 3 necessarily, either the Surface 3, because again, clear difference between the two. One is for pros, and the other one is for people who are looking for mobile connectivity. Honestly, the biggest selling point of the Surface 3 is getting a year's worth of, I think, the personal Office 365 license. So if you're going to spend $100 on Office 365, it's like you're spending only $399 for the base model of a Surface 3 versus $499. That's the going rate. So I think that's actually a fantastic deal. If you are an Office user and you were holding off on getting any new version of Office 365, or I guess not from a new version, a license for it, this could be the clincher, really, because you could use Office on the iPad, but it's going to cost you, right? You've got to pay, what is it, $100 or something like that? I don't know. They've got so many options these days, but that's the benefit, I think. So for me, I think the sweet spot in terms of a purchase point for you, if you're interested in the Surface 3, because I think it is a system to be interested in. Yes, it is a contender. Yes, I don't know if it's going to be enough to win people over. If they've already invested in iOS or let's say the iPad. Because let's face it, the closest competitor it has is the iPad. There's really no leading Android tablet. There's a lot of great Android tablets, but they're all over the map. So what's interesting, and you might remember this from the video that my dad did, his first impressions of Windows 10, which were positive, he used the Surface Pro 3 that I loaded Windows 10 on, one of the first technical previews, one of the first public technical previews. Not necessarily consumer level edition, but he liked it. And he didn't know who made the Surface. So despite spending, what, billions of dollars on Surface advertising, Microsoft hasn't gone far enough to brand the Surface line of products as Microsoft products. So what they've done, they've taken it a step further, and where you had seen Surface branded on the product before, now with the Surface 3, it's Microsoft. I think that's a smart move. It's a Microsoft computer running Windows, Microsoft Windows. The biggest selling point of the Surface 3 isn't the fact that it's a Surface, it's the fact that you get a year's worth of Office 365 personal with it. Now, if I were Microsoft, and I'm obviously not Microsoft, I'd take that a step further. I would say that for the life of you owning that Surface 3, you'll have Office 365 forever. If they did that, I'm not a mathematician by any stretch of the imagination, but if they did that, I think it would be a very compelling argument to go with the Surface 3 over an iPad. Because, a year later, and then you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, I gotta pay for it now. Sorry about that. Versus, hey, you know what? You want to use the Surface 3, it's great. We want you to live inside of Microsoft's world. We are tired of bleeding mind share and market share. We need you here. Why don't you just take the Office 365? Just take it, for the life of you using the Surface 3. I think that would be a smart move for Microsoft. I don't think they're going to make that move. I'm not saying they're stupid to not make that move. I'm just saying it would be very intelligent for them to do that. Just think about that. A very compelling argument to go with the Surface 3 over an iPad. Is it an iPad killer? Okay, I'm going to go back to, years and years and years and years of explaining this to people. The only X killer there is for an Apple product is the next Apple product in the line. The next iPhone killer is the next iPhone. The next iPad killer is the iPad. There is no other killers. Apple's got its own ecosystem, right? They deal with their own stuff, right? They keep people inside of iTunes and messages and everything that Apple throws out there. That's Apple. Microsoft's different. Microsoft licenses their operating system, and in some cases now they're licensing it for free. So, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily free for anybody to license, but I don't want to dive too deeply into that right now. Suffice it to say, my thoughts on the Surface 3 at a distance are positive. I don't believe they've done enough to make a compelling argument to move people outside of an ecosystem that they're accustomed to if they're accustomed to iOS. I do think, however, it could be compelling enough to move people into the tablet world if they haven't tried a tablet yet and they love Windows and they like Windows and they want to live inside of Windows and they love Microsoft. Surface 3 is a compelling upgrade. Not talking for pros, that's Surface Pro 3. I'm talking like, the average person, like, I like my PC, but, I want to get a tablet, but I like Windows, and I'm kind of familiar with Windows, so why can't I get Windows in a tablet, but yet be affordable, and can I run Microsoft Office? The answer is yes, 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 yes. So Microsoft is going to have to go overboard in terms of educating the consumer that the Surface 3 is a PC, yet a tablet at the same time. And commercials ain't gonna do it. Commercials are largely ignored. They've really got to make the compelling argument, the use case, to getting this in people's hands. And so every argument must be made to making that amount of friction to get people to spend $500 on a tablet. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, if they're spending money on Office 365, that's $100, but you get that for free for a year. Actually, let me make sure I got that right. I'm pretty sure that's the case. I'm looking at the store site here. One click, great pin. Yeah, Office included for a limited time, 1-year subscription. I think it's bad. I think it's a bad idea. It's a $70 value even. I was thinking $100 because that's the license that I got for Office 365 so that I could access it on multiple machines, including the iPad. So, to me, I don't know. Microsoft's got to remove those hurdles. And, I think the Surface 3, even if they're losing money on it, kind of like the way they did with the Xbox, I think they'd be in a better position losing money on the Surface 3, getting it in more people's hands, removing all friction to getting that out there. I think it's the only way for Microsoft to win the battle with the Surface 3. It'll sell. How well it'll sell, I don't know. Microsoft's in a position where I don't think they quite understand still that they need the world more than the world needs something from Microsoft, especially if they're already being taken care of from their current line of products that aren't related to Microsoft at all. E.g., iPad, or an Android tablet if you're running Android on a tablet. Although I haven't heard a lot of interesting news in the Android tablet front for quite a long time, beyond the Nexus 9. So that's my take. That's my spin. I'm not PR, obviously, but I understand the world of Windows. I understand what consumers want, and there's a massive disconnect sometimes between A consumer, a lot of nerds think, well, the latest is the best. Not necessarily. That's not how consumers think. Or it needs to be top of the line for it to be accepted. That's not the way consumers think. They're driven by a variety of factors, including price. And I honestly believe that the bar has been raised in consumer technology to also remove frustration. And that's something that Microsoft Windows has had an issue with eschewing in the past, because people have had these nightmares of installing software and having the entire experience ruined. Microsoft is still trying to move past that while maintaining backwards compatibility, and that is just another Achilles heel of Windows in terms of acceptance in a day and age when people are using this as their primary computer, not necessarily something like a Surface PC. So, those are my thoughts. Haven't used it. Can't tell you, if it's great or not. You just asked my thoughts. Happy to share them with you. And in fact, today's deep dive, the patron exclusive hangout, I believe, is going to be talking about the Surface 3, and if not, I know we're planning on covering that at some point in the near future. More exclusive insight, not just the news, but answers that you can use. You want to know more of what's in my head? I'm happy to share it with you. Thank you again to all my patrons. Thank you for tuning in, but I'm going to leave you to your own devices.